Okay, so welcome to the 11th podcast. And today I am in Boston, in Massachusetts, and I'm here with Paolo Scoglio, which is a good friend of me. I have been studying this very interesting knowledge about the body and the energies for many years together with him, and he's going to talk about it. But first of all, Polio, who are you?
I am a man who enjoys life, who lives north of Boston in a suburb called Beverly. And I have a daughter who's 30, a lovely woman, exceptional. She came from another planet, or she's an angel. And I work as a coach and a psychotherapist.
How many years have you done that?
All combined, maybe 39 years.
So this podcast, this is the first podcast I do in English American, and the podcast is about consciousness. I call it In Search of Consciousness. So what is consciousness for you?
It's a kind of awareness, but it has many states, like levels. Like in a building, you can be on the first floor, or you can be on the roof, or you can be in the basement. That might be one way of looking at consciousness, like there's levels of consciousness. But consciousness could also be more in the body, intensity of experience, awareness of the moment, awareness of wonder, curiosity, intensity of experience. Sometimes consciousness is like waking up. Makes me think of the film Inception. Which is about people going into dream states and going into a dream, into another dream, into another dream, multiple layers in dreams. And then when they would wake up, they might still be in another dream. But in the movie, it was sometimes unclear, are they still dreaming? How far into the dream have they gone? So sometimes when I've had experiences like, I'm not dreaming, but I've woken up in the waking state to a higher level. Like I've reached the roof and I'm looking out and it looks new and different. Like something changed and I'm not exactly sure what it is. And what it probably is that I'm more aware.
So I think because it happened today that we were in a workshop together. We were running a workshop together.
Yes.
And it was a workshop about the 9 energies.
Yes.
And you did amazing. You were very, very, very present, and you were together with these people. And so for the listener, we are going to talk about what we did in the workshop. But I have experienced, after the workshop,
Mhm.
And I want to talk about that first before we get into what we did in the workshop and what we're going to talk more about today when we talk about the 9 energies. So, what have happened with you?
After the workshop,
Yeah.
I have been physically tired. You could say I'm an introvert, and that means I get energy by being by myself. My batteries recharge in solitude. I like being with people, so I'm close to being an extrovert at times, but I really get my energy by myself. But I didn't even know I needed that after the workshop. I just knew I had an intense experience. I was full of a kind of consciousness that I picked up from other people in the workshop, so that it was it was like I was being washed by their pleasure.
Mm.
And so every time we worked with someone, they had a sense of pleasure, and the people viewing had a sense of pleasure. And so each time it was like this wave of interest, grace, positivity coming from the people, just filled the space, which then would infiltrate my body.
Oh.
And my body would absorb it like I'm a sponge. And I was kind of amazed how much I could absorb.
Ah.
So I kept absorbing and absorbing. It's like, gee, this sponge has never held this much before. And it's like holding all goodness, but it's like a lot of goodness.
Mm.
So it was exhausting, and you wanted to talk, and I didn't want to talk. I wanted to just like be quiet and still and be maybe just in the wonder of the experience of being that full.
What do you mean with full?
Full.
Mm.
Like I am, well, a sponge or a glass. You fill up a glass of water, and it's right at the top, and the water has come up to the rim, and because of surface tension, the water is above the rim, so it's like overfull, and if you add a little more, it will spill out. But I'm not rigid like that glass, so the sides started to expand out, and more could come in, and it was just like getting more and more, and the sides were stretching to hold more, and stretching to hold more, and just kept stretching, and it was like, boy, I'm pretty big. And
so that's the experience you have after
like expansive
all this
fullness. Like taking a deep breath, but I took in more air than I have before. People who practice being underwater for a long time, people think I can only hold my breath for 15 seconds, then I need to breathe. But some people, they can hold their breath for 3 minutes. And they just learn to take in so much air and be with that. And just be with it. And just be with it. And not need more. Maybe the analogy's falling apart, but there's
I like it. I understand.
Sense
of fullness. But so that's after the workshop. So we are getting in again, as I said, we will get into the workshop. And before the workshop, something interesting happened. I woke up this morning at 6:30, and 7 o'clock you were up, and I saw you. And what kind of space were you in at that time?
I was in a space of, there are many things that must be done in advance to make the space right for the workshop. So I thought of that before I fell asleep. As I was falling asleep, it was like, oh, I forgot about this and about that. And this needs to be done, and that needs to be. We had to get a sound system from my office. I wanted to set things up, create the space. I felt responsible. It's like, I am hosting the space. I must help create the space. In fact, I must create the space. No help. I was doing it. And so you wanted to go to breakfast, go out. And I thought, not enough time for that, because then that will squash the time for preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted it to be created and then have time where the people didn't arrive, but there was just you and I.
Mm.
So that's what happened. But in anticipation of that, there was tension.
Tension, yeah.
Because I was pushing against your need and your want for American breakfast. and I gave you a fruit smoothie instead.
That's okay. It's very interesting, and I think this is a unique situation to interview a person who's leading a workshop before and after what's happening in the stressful situation before you start a workshop. And I think it's happening for everybody. There's kind of a nerve in it that hits us when we do this, and there is something that's happening afterwards where you get full, or you feel fulfilled by what you have been doing. So
there is a difference.
Yeah,
there's a difference between you and I. There is a Grimm's fairy tale. It's called The Tailor and the Shoemaker. And it's an interesting comparison of two types of individuals. So the tailor is carefree and open to the fullness of life without any worries. And the shoemaker is like tedious, focused, where the feet have to be comfortable and everything has to be just right. And they decide that the town they were working in didn't appreciate them enough. So they were going to go to this other town. And the other town was a good distance, and they understood that there was a road that took two paths, and each path would split off, and each path would take them there, but one went far out of the way, and so that trip would take 7 days. And the other path would take 3 days. So the tailor packed for 3 days. The shoemaker packed for 7 days. And of course, when they get to the fork in the road, the sign is not there, so they don't know which way to go. And the shoemaker sensed, well, maybe we won't know, so I will pack for 7 days. And he just assumed that the tailor would pack for 7 days, but the tailor packed for 3 days. And so they get to the fork in the road, and they say, which way do we go? And they just decided, we'll go that way. And they go that way, and that was the 7-day journey. And so there was like trouble along the way. So it was like, you are the tailor and I am the shoemaker. Our energy is like that. And of course, the shoemaker wanted to be able to see the world like the tailor. And the story goes there where he buys the tailor's eyes for food that the tailor wants. You must give me your eye. It's like very symbolic. But he wanted to have that carefree vision. There's magical things happen in the story. You can read it. So we are approaching the workshop, and I have this feeling like, I got to get all this done. And you're like, hey, it doesn't matter. We don't have to. It'll just be what it is. Don't worry about it. We'll survive. And I'm thinking we could die along the way. Now, it wasn't, not that we were going to die, but it's almost like I had that pressure, like, this has to be right. So there was there's that difference between us. And I like your view. I want to be able to say, I don't care. It's all going to be just right. It's just going to be just right. And sometimes I don't care. Sometimes I can be spontaneous and wing it. But somehow I felt like I am responsible, and we are partnered with someone else who helped to
Susan and Martin in Bozeman,
and we have their books and selling them to people. So there's a sense of like responsibility that I felt, and maybe because I'm less experienced in terms of like bringing this to people. You have more experience. Susan has more experience. I feel like, okay, I've got to show up and have it all together, make it right. So I felt that pressure until it felt like it was right, and we had downtime, and we're waiting for people to come, and we have the music on, and I'm dancing around, and it was like then I could have that. So my consciousness shifted from intense mental focus and sense of responsibility, and maybe even fear of not being right or fully responsible. Like I wanted to be responsible. And then when it was all together, it was like, okay.
So this is before, I just so the listener
this is before the workshop.
So the listener can follow us when we go through this, because it's a wonderful day, it's a wonderful experience, and they really want people to hear this and get a sense of it. So we were up in the morning, as we said, and you talked about it. That was before the workshop, and we have been talking about after the workshop, and then we're going to talk about what was the workshop about? Just a little bit, so the listener can understand what we are doing.
So the workshop is about how people experience their bodies and express themselves through their bodies in ways that is completely unconscious. So every body, every human being has an animating energy, and there's 9 flavors or forms of that animating life force energy. And people express a particular flavor in the way they move, in the way they interact, in the way they create relationship. And it even shows up in their face and how their bodies start to shape. So identical twins have different animating energies all the time. And as they get older, they look less and less alike, because their animating energy starts to reshape their body in a particular way. So we were identifying people's animating energy today.
So that's the workshop. This is what the workshop was about. But when I do these interviews, Paolo, I'm really, really interested in the person I'm doing the interview with, how they're doing with what they're doing in their life, based on their interest in consciousness. And for you have been into this work for many, many, many years. How old are you now?
69.
You're 69 years old, and you take very good care of yourself. And you're eating healthy, you're not drinking alcohol, you look like you are 52, your face is smooth, and you walk like a ballet dancer. So you're in very good shape. So how was it for you to do the workshop?
It was fun, pleasurable, tiring, at the same time as enriching. It was like eating really good food, but instead of having a meal that lasts 30 minutes or 60 minutes, it's one of those long meals, lots of courses, and they just keep bringing you more food. And you go, oh, then you taste it and it's delicious. And then they bring you another serving, another course, and it's like, oh, that's delicious. And you think, I'm done now. And then they bring you another one. And you think, oh, we're definitely done. No, and then they bring you another one. And so it was like, and they're not big portions, but it's like, I think I ate enough already. And then they bring you another one. And then you hear, oh, there's 7 desserts that you have to choose 3 of. And so it's just like more and more and more. So it was all good, but it was a lot.
When you say that you get these servings, I understand because I was there. So just to give the listener a metaphor of it and understand. So that's the person who's coming up, standing in front of you, and you're working with that person to figure out the energy of that person. So that's a very fulfilling or draining or uplifting experience, but you can get full.
Yes, well, it's an intimate experience. So people show up because they want the experience. And then as they discover it, what it's about, because a lot of times, a lot of the people, they weren't really clear what it was about, truly. And then gradually they wanted to be in front of me or you. And so when they would volunteer, it's like, okay, I am going to let myself be intimate, energetically intimate. We touch their hands, we stand in front of them, we gently push on their hands or their shoulders, and they allow that contact. So it's like dancing with people, only it's more improvisational. So it's not a structured dance where people know what their role is in the dance. It's more, we're dancing together and it's just all surprises. Surprises for me, surprises for them. And I think the intimacy aspect is enriching. It's warm. It feels different with different people and with the different energies. The sense of intimacy feels different. But some of the people I know professionally and in the profession, I wouldn't touch them. It's like there's a boundary. And yet they were interested in this. And so they come and they understand, okay, the boundary of no touch is going to be broken. We're going to allow that for this process briefly in public like this. And so it's like they reveal their essence in a substantial way briefly to me. And that it's very positive. It's like there's it's all respectful. It's all graceful, respectful. Mutually beneficial. They all felt good. Sometimes when people get the aha, oh, I am very strong in my body, and it looks like you are putting significant effort in trying to move me, and I feel fully alive. Apparently, I'm like a statue that you can't move, and they feel really good. And when that happens, it's like this pulse of energy flows through them and then expands out into the room and into me. And that pulse of energy is what I was talking, like I'm a sponge and I absorb it. And it feels good. And I just kept absorbing. And we took a break and I could feel like my body is tired. It was like stretched so far, holding the energy. And you said, well, you're going to have to find a way to just keep going. You must do that, and you also turned my expectation upside down, because I had established in my mind and with our friends Susan and Martin, that you would work with people first, or maybe only, and then I would with some of them. But you wanted me to work with all of them first, and then you would. And it was like, okay, that's different. And I didn't have an objection, other than it was just like, oh, that's not what I was thinking we were going to do. So I had to like flip. Oh, this is what we're doing. Okay.
Do you know why I choose to do it like that?
Bossy, headstrong.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No. Why you chose to do that? You wanted to give me an experience of success, of achievement, of recognition of my capacity. I appreciate that. So you pushed me beyond my comfort zone of confidence, and required me to be confident, and be confident again, and be confident again. And so I had to find that confidence in me and stand in front of people and do that.
Mm. It was very, very good. You did very good. I think we did very good together.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you think why I did it in that way?
Laziness, slothfulness.
It's like doing the podcast with my son. It's just, oh, that's not the way you are. You are different.
No, not lazy, not slothful. Any other reason? You wanted to see from a different perspective, probably. I mean, you've, by and large, for many years, been the one in front of people, showing people how to do this. The people in your community. And you've recently stepped back and let them develop the program there in Norway. And so it may have been more of that, consistent with you, like, oh, let's see how this person knows how to do this. Let's see them do it. Let's see how they can do it. Let them see it. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. You might have.
Yeah, that's also a reason. But one of the reasons, from my perspective, is that I believe that people can do more than they think.
Yes.
And I saw that today with you.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that's part of your gift, to inspire.
Yeah, inspire
and
encourage, and I want you to be really, really good at what you're doing. And but another thing is that here in Boston, it hasn't been really a stake in the ground with this work. It has been around you,
yes,
but it hasn't been really flagged and getting out to people. And you have so many people who really admires you, and they go to your clinic and they meet you and they talk to you and they change their life and they change their relationships. So I really want to help you and the work to be established and manifested here in Boston, so they can come back and see you again and see that beautiful clinic that you are in together with your friend. What's her name again?
Oh, that's Karen and her daughter Kelly.
Yeah, beautiful people.
A yoga massage studio. with multiple offices. And they have many things going on there. And this is doing this 9 Energies workshop.
Yeah, so we are back again. We just lost a little bit track of time here. so the last thing you said, Paul.
Yes, I was talking about Karen Anisi and her daughter Kelly Anisi having that Wild Rose Health Center.
Beautiful place.
Yes, and they want to do more of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you are encouraging that, and I appreciate it.
Very good. So we're going to change the topic. We have been talking about the workshop, which getting the title today, Paolo, before, after, and in the middle of a workshop. And it's really nice to hear how a person who have been responsible, like you, been running a workshop together with me today. But I also want to talk about something else. I met your daughter yesterday.
Yes.
Your beautiful daughter. She's 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And since we have been into this work for so many years, I think it's 20 years now together.
Something like that.
Yeah, or
2003.
17 years. 17 years. Okay. Almost 20. So I have seen pictures of her and since she was a kid, because you always take a lot of pictures. And I've seen pictures of her, but then I met her yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And something very, very beautiful and inspiring happened when I was together with you guys. And we were talking about it, Paolo, how huge impact it has that parents like you, or a parenting, you say parenting? Yeah, parenting.
I'm a parent.
A parent, yeah. Her dad know which energy she have had, or she has, for so many years.
Yes, since she was 14.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that changed my perspective about her. I had what we would say a self-centered perspective, as if the way I am and the way I experience the world is the way everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that's not true, but that's an egocentric or self-centric way of viewing the world. And then when I saw her at a workshop with people of the same energy of her that she has, I realized that all of these people are just like her, and they move like her, and they talk like her, and they pause and wait before they answer just like her, and they have that same pace, and that same kind approach if you give them the space. And I realized what I was projecting on her was my way of being in the world, which is so different than her way of being in the world. So then it changed the way I was parenting. And it's like it engaged me in a higher level of respect for her as a human being, being a different kind of human being. She's different than me, and yet I could value the difference. I started to notice all the differences, and rather than thinking of them as something's wrong, I would notice that's intriguing. Look at how she can do that. She would be the center of her community. She would have friends that were like 20 or 30 friends. And she was the one that would pull them together and have parties. When we would be together in California, she would be having secret parties at my house. She would confess that later.
That's great.
I would find beer cans in the backyard. But anyway.
So I said to you that I feel that she's really, really content. I mean, she's really
contained.
Contained.
Right.
Contained, confident, and balanced. And,
yes.
And has a self-secure way of being that I couldn't smell it, but I could feel it.
Yes.
When we had the lunch together.
Yeah, she's
Very strong.
She's matured significantly into a young woman and strong in her way, confident, very clear. It's always been very clear about what she would want, and then she would move towards it.
Yeah. And
moving forward, and if something didn't work, she would regroup and then move towards something that was parallel of just what she wanted, and she would get it.
Yeah.
She wanted to get a PhD, and she's in the middle of that, and she didn't want to have to pay anything for it. So she's not paying anything. She's getting paid to get a PhD.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to use the last minutes in this podcast about you're going to. I'm just asking. You have to say yes or no, but tell me about you. You are, and I think we can reveal this is you're a 7.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 means different things.
Yes.
And before we say what it means, I just want you to tell how is it to grow up with yourself being a 7?
Well, I didn't know I was a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Although 7 was my favorite number. And the color that tends to go with 7 was my favorite color, which is indigo. And so you're asking me what was it like, and I have to think about it retrospectively because I didn't learn about my 7-ness as like a valid thing until I was 52 years old. And prior to that, in the Enneagram, I thought I was a 9. So this 9 energy system, or the Ennead method, is a body-based version of the Enneagram. The Enneagram is about your personality. This is about your nature through your body. And my body says I'm a 7, where my mind thought I was a 9. And then when I thought about it, it was because my family needed a peacemaker. And my 7-ness, which would show up, was perplexing and maybe annoying and agitating because it was misunderstood. In the same way that I misunderstood my daughter, my parents didn't really understand my 7-ness. And so, but 7s are very good at being adaptable. So I adapted to give them what they wanted, and I adapted to be the peacemaker. And then I discovered the 7-ness and said, oh, I hid this part. I buried this part of me, or I would have that adventurousness, but no one would know I was sneakily adventurous. And then when I understood and I could like cultivate my capacity as a 7, then I could value what I do in my work as a change maker and as a someone who can see the end of something that's not working and tell people that's not working, that needs to end. And I have a way of telling people that they go, oh yeah, okay. It's rare that people will say, no, I can't. They understand I'm telling them the truth. But that's part of the 7, is to be able to see that and say that in a way that's receivable.
Wow. What an amazing, interesting podcast. Very different from what I have done before.
It's in English.
It is also in English. So I would like to say thank you so much, Paolo. We are going to do another workshop tomorrow.
Yes.
I don't know if we do a podcast, but we will for sure do a podcast when we get over to Bozeman. We're going to
Bozeman,
see
Montana, yes.
Susan and Martin over there, and we're going to
Mhm.
work together with them and discover more about this work. They are people who are being investigating their time and money and life and everything into this. So they are very, very developed and know a lot. So you guys who are listening to us will hear more from us later through this series of English podcast series that we have now the next 2 weeks. So thank you so much, Paolo.
Tusen takk, Morten.
Good Norwegian, Paolo. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.